Well,
Just hold on.
hello everyone.
Hello,
I'm Valerie.
this is Sheila.
You can find us on our website at
twodaysliches.
twodaysliches.com.
And we're just two authentic lady bitches.
That's right. Hence, 2
liches.
days. Yeah. Today's liches. We have a unique perspective of the sandwich generation with parents above and children below. And today's hot topic is
Generations and parenting.
yes. But before we get to generations and parenting, we have a couple of things that we have to clear up from last week.
Yeah.
Right?
Number one, I had given Valerie a challenge to make me something out of mask. And sorry, afterwards, I come to realize that really wasn't responsible.
Not just that it wasn't responsible, because face masks are mandatory in pretty much a lot of places, but in Alberta right now, what I can tell you is that masks are hard to come by. So my lovely sister had challenged me to have
clothing.
Yeah, to make a shirt out of masks. So we decided that it would be against better judgment to do that.
Yeah.
So especially at this time, maybe in the future.
Yeah, but not now.
No, not now. So the challenge for me to do a face mask shirt that Sheila could wear is now off the table.
Right.
So let's get to last week and the challenge, the Advent Calendar Challenge. Well, the good news is
we get to keep them.
we get to keep them. Nobody submitted anything. I went again and checked on our Facebook Messenger, plus went through our posts, which we usually check
even our
daily.
emails, 2 Day Liches.
Yeah, we checked our email. I went on TikTok, YouTube. I didn't see anything posted to us or anything.
So lucky us.
We get to keep our own Advent calendars.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep mine.
Well, no, I give you the one I made.
Yeah,
and you give me the one you made.
Mine's alcohol. And I don't know what hers is.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
So then the other thing we had was we have a really big announcement. I'm really, really happy to tell you this. We're going to be doing a show called Grammy's Corner.
Right. And it's going to be like Grammy and the grandkids.
Right.
We live in a lot of challenging times, and right now we're not able to see our grandchildren. However, I do have one living with me right now, so that's kind of a bonus. But at this point in time,
yeah,
we thought that it would be great because we like to do things with our grandkids, and maybe we can all get together and do this. But we're going to be doing a program called Grammy's Corner, and it's going to be new adventures with Grammy, whether it's baking or making arts and crafts or going on an outing with Grammy. Even though you can't be there, you kind of can. And where we can even explore all kinds of new ideas and new adventures. And we want it to be about learning and about new things to do with Grammy.
Things I like doing with my grandkids.
Exactly.
And so we wanted everybody who maybe like us can't be with their grandchildren at the time can participate. And
yeah. So if you check out our website, it's on our website right now, coming soon, Grammy's Corner.
It's 2daysliches.com.
That's right.
The number 2.
And we are actually going to be working on this and hope to have the first Grammy's Corner out this weekend.
Yes.
So that is our goal, to get Grammy's Corner out this weekend, and then we'll probably do one weekly till the new year and see how it goes from there.
Right. Now, let's get on our topic.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, this came about in a very odd way.
Yeah.
So what had happened was I had done a blog, and my blog was on surprise, the millennials aren't the entitled generation as everybody had thought. So, and that sort of
got us talking about parents
and
changing,
parenting, and
everything
how
changing.
much things have changed in 75 years. So
It's
just to
ridiculous.
do a little bit of background, so that people can understand a little bit. We were raised by baby boomers. So Gen X was raised by baby boomers. Prior to baby boomers, they didn't label generations. So if you try to go back any further, then you're just going to come up with what they call traditionalists.
Yep.
So, and in my research and my better judgment and understanding of the whole topic, I started realizing that every generation has brought something extremely significant to the table. And it started with our parents' generation, the baby boomer generation.
Yep.
So the baby boomer generation was the first generation to make it socially acceptable for women to work outside of the home. And ever since then, we've been picking up that torch. And I don't mean us as women, I mean generations. Every generation after that has been picking up that torch and forging that torch forward for new changes and about equality,
Yep.
all of that. And it just keeps going down the line.
Right.
So in examining all of this, because our parents were raised by traditionalists, and we were raised by baby boomers. What existed 75 years ago, 50 years ago, no longer exists today.
Right.
So how can we pass judgment on certain topics like the internet and children and TV and children?
Well, that's part of the funny thing is we had TV when we were kids. I mean, people act like we didn't have
God, no.
We had TV. Yes, we had to get up and go over and turn it and all that stuff.
No. We had
you later. I remember going over and turning the knob.
Oh, yeah, but that's only when we went to Nova Scotia, Sheila.
Oh, okay.
Prior to Nova Scotia,
we had a box.
We had a box that had 32 channels because people in Nova Scotia would not believe it.
TV.
So,
so with television came the whole idea of how much do you let your kids go on the television? And then in my generation, we used to hear things like, we let our kids watch too much TV.
Right. But here's the thing. The difference in my generation to my children's generation, or our children's generation, I should say, Gen X to the next generation. Anyway, what happened was when we watched TV, there was one TV in the home. We had to watch it together as a family. And on the times, like if we woke up early enough Saturday morning
you
that you could watch your cartoons, but Dad was pretty good about that. And then,
well, they like sleeping in.
No, but he was, even if he was up, he would sit and watch cartoons with us. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, he liked Bugs Bunny
too.
Right. But the thing is that we watched, television was watched as a family. Right. Then my children, or I keep saying mine, then our children's generation, it was different. There was multiple TVs.
And Nintendo came.
And Nintendo and video games.
And there wasn't multiple TVs, I think, until they got a little bit older.
No, I get that because I'm looking at, the fact, you're right. But by the 90s, most children had a TV, had access to a TV without parental supervision.
And that's
what I'm saying.
And then we had computers come in when our kids were teenagers. Or
basically,
younger.
No,
everybody started having one in their house.
Right, in the 90s, basically. It started, I think, like definitely in the 90s. I think it was 98 or 99 when we got one, like the big dial-up, wait forever as screen-loaded computer. But the thing is, we never had to. It wasn't something we thought about. Is how dangerous and
the media platforms
and how it affects children, how children are drawn to this, and which I totally understand. I would have
And how they
I
learn,
have lost
how
self.
they learn from it.
Right. And look, screen time. Look, I've lost self-control on the internet before. I remember when I found Roller Coaster Tycoon, I started playing that
till 2, 3 in the morning because you could.
Because I had to build my theme park. But the reality is that when we were, none of this existed.
No.
And it didn't exist for our parents to parent.
Right.
So we had a lot more freedoms, as I'm sure my parents had more freedoms as well, because there was no way to connect home to you when you were down the road.
And I think most people who are out there have to agree that if you didn't connect, like when we were younger, we couldn't text each other and say,
no,
do you want to go outside and play? And you couldn't call each other because your parents would probably say, no, you're not using the phone for that. You can just walk over there.
Yeah,
you
can just go.
You know what I mean?
We would never use the phone. With the exception when I was a teenager, I'd use the phone all the time.
And it was attached to the wall.
Yeah, and the phone was attached to the wall. But hey, our kids grew up with the phone being attached to the wall.
Yep.
So, I mean.
Well, your oldest did. I don't think my kids really remember the phone attached to the wall.
Oh,
other than the ones.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I guess they did, but they could walk around with it.
But there's 7 years between my children, so that could be true. Yeah, for sure. But anyways, back to the parenting.
Yes.
So as I realized in going through all of this, because I know sometimes children will look to their parents when they're having parenting issues or whatever. And the one area I could never speak to is parenting and the internet or video games or all of that. And I mean, I think as I put in my blog today, my answer, and I mean, you just can't, and I understand that, but my answer, because I'm old school, would be just turn it off. Yep. But the reality is, in today's day and age, you can't just turn it off. A lot of children are learning through the internet right now. That's their only access to education right now. So it's not something necessarily that you can just turn off. And then you move into whole different areas: cyberbullying, cyber stalking. How do you deal with that?
So that's just one aspect of parenting, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we're not talking, like, I'm talking about the daily parenting too has changed. Right. Just daily parenting has changed. Right. Getting up and having 2 jobs. The mother and the father often going to work nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, that didn't happen in our life until you were how old? Because you started babysitting me.
13.
Yeah.
I was about 13, but here, back then, and it was quite okay to do this, it was that, okay, now that mom is going to be working, right, outside, my responsibility to get supper started and cook supper, and then you, to make sure, to look after you, to make sure you did your homework. We would lie and say we practiced when we really didn't. And
I had practiced my guitar, Mom. I practiced
half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. And I'll say you practice. I'll say you practice if you'll say I practiced. Bonus. So you can tell my accordion career and her guitar career didn't go anywhere. Anyway, but I mean, it was just a whole different lifestyle.
It's true. It really was. We played outside a lot more than.
Right. Yeah, and there were,
and we got up in the morning and argued to go outside.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't connected either. No. And it was nothing to mom giving us 25 cents or whatever so we could go down the block to the pool or up to the library and go for the whole day.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes she even packed us lunches.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was
good.
If
we were just, we would take we used to do that a lot, especially in the summertime.
And the world, you can't do that anymore. So
no, it doesn't exist.
Part of the change. So moms and dads and families, period. It doesn't matter if you're single moms or single dads. However, it is, I believe, probably one of the hardest jobs. When they say it's one of the most rewarding, they're not kidding. It depends on how you do it, though, and how you decide to do it. I don't know. That's never changed.
being a grandparent's more rewarding.
Yes, it's probably the most rewarding.
I think
Like,
so.
let's face it. There came a point where I went, did I like my grandchildren more than my kids? Possibly. Is that possible? Is that even possible? But it could be,
It could
because
be. don't
I gotta
know.
say I adore them.
No, and I think what it is when you have grandchildren, I think what happens is that with your grandchildren, they're like your children, but with a lot
They're
less
not yours.
responsibility,
Less
which
responsibility.
makes it totally cool because you don't have to
And
put up,
easy.
yeah, you don't have to listen to and parent and do all of those
Tantrums and all that. It's
Yeah.
not yours to, and they don't do it with you because,
No,
well, you're
exactly. Hence Brady's corner. But anyway, so I think what it is that with parenting, I know, and I will be the first one to admit I've caught myself saying it before.
What's wrong with these kids?
Yeah, what's wrong with the generation today? Like, what's wrong with them? Don't
But
they
I also
get it?
remember we used to be expected to keep like a perfect home.
But here's the difference, and that's the problem. We're putting our expectations on you. And what I mean by that is that in my parents' generation and my generation, you were like there was the expectation that you were to go out and earn your own way in this life, whether you were married or not. Right? Okay. So with that being said, but because I was a female, and even though I worked full time, I was also responsible for the vast majority of everything in my home, the cooking,
shopping,
the cleaning, yeah, all of that, getting the kids back and forth to whatever. But the thing is that you were, and that was an expectation,
Yeah,
it was as expected of you.
Yeah.
Right. So what happened, then there was like a paradigm shift. There was a shift, and I started realizing that parents, and husbands and wives and parents in general were negotiating their own terms.
Yeah.
Right. So what we had in our brain was the way that things were supposed to be dealt with or done,
doesn't mean
based on how we were raised, right? Doesn't mean that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, not only that, I mean, look, how many single dads are out there, or single moms? How many dads are at home now? Well, the wife is out working.
Right.
And those same expectations at home, though.
Right. But the thing is I understand that. What I was trying to get across that our expectations placed on us, on our generation, are not the same expectations that are on today's generation, not even close, because the expectation that the woman should work full time, look after the home, right, and the children,
and the food.
And the food,
and the appointments, and the grocery shopping,
and all of that. And then the other party would go out and earn the income to pay for that whole thing.
Right.
But the thing is that expectation was that way. Plus, you were supposed to go out and work full time. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I guess what I'm saying is that doesn't exist anymore, and it doesn't. No. And I don't believe that if any person who works full time, it should be, if both parents are working full time. Listen, marriage, partnership, common
50-50.
law, it is a 50-50 legally, but also it's an equal partnership. Yeah. You both have to pitch in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you got both parents out there working, you both have to pitch in.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're fortunate enough that a parent can stay home, whether it be because I know there's a lot more stay-at-home dads or stay-at-home moms.
Exactly.
If you're fortunate enough that you're able to do that, then you
You're delving up the responsibility
You're
still. Only one's working at one job and the other's working at the
at
other
the other
job.
job. Exactly. Because then if you're willing to take on that responsibility of being a stay-at-home parent,
Yeah.
then that the other responsibilities that were shared, they can negotiate that so there's a lot less
Right.
of that parent's time being taken up doing
particular things.
Right, exactly. But the reality is that it's a negotiation. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I don't think I can say that when I raised mine, I remember it very much being like I was working, looking after kids, doing all these things, and thinking that was what you're supposed to do. I wish I would have had a little more help.
Well, here's the thing, though, you've got to understand, though, our husbands were raised
that
traditionally.
They were to go out and get and work.
Right, but they were raised traditionally, so their expectation that, and look, it's not that my husband never picked up a broom or never picked up a vacuum cleaner. It's just or started supper or whatever. Absolutely, but the majority of the responsibility was on me, right? Not my husband. No. And what I'm saying is that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's just one of
now
those.
I look at it. I guess how I've always looked at it is my household is 100% a reflection of me.
Right.
Okay. So that means that, yeah, in a way, I kind of took pride in a nice home. I had pride in trying to look after my kids and get them to what they needed and play.
No,
everybody gets a different sense
here's the point.
Of what they need to do with their children.
Yeah, and here's the point. The point is that there is nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home parent. Absolutely not.
No. Male or female.
Yeah, it doesn't there's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home parent. I get it. If you want to be a stay-at-home
What do you mean nothing wrong with it? As far as I'm concerned, when I did it, it was like the hardest job.
Well, that's what I guess that's the point I'm getting to, because I will be honest, I preferred to go to work.
Me too.
It
was as soon as I had the ability to, I was like, out the door I went.
I prefer to work.
Yeah.
It's just that nowadays when two parents are working, I notice parents are now negotiating better at jointly splitting things.
Yes.
And, where not one parent is expected to come home after work and then do laundry and get the supper ready and clean up after supper and bath time and story time, that, they're working together to try to get things done. I guess.
That not one, like they can divide that. It doesn't.
I understand.
It's like you said, it's more of a negotiation now.
Right.
Less of an expectation, more of a negotiation about who's comfortable with what. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, even more than that with parenting. I mean, there's just so many aspects. Getting them to school and coming home, like it's all different.
Well, kids don't even walk to school. No. But kids don't even walk to school anymore. It's unless you live right across the street from the school. I mean, kids,
they're not walking to school anymore.
Kids aren't walking to school anymore. It's come to the point that it's not safe for children to walk to school anymore.
A terrible reflection of our world.
It's the reality, and I think that, I don't know.
It's a terrible reflection of our world.
I guess my point and why I brought all up this generational things is that we're quick to pass judgment, especially our generation and above, right? Yep. We're quick to pass judgment without recognizing that the world that we grew up in absolutely does not exist anymore, right? Absolutely. I mean, and hey, we wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be here and the children and grandchildren if it wasn't for us and our parents and their parents
before us.
Right. It's just that I think people need to recognize instead of passing judgment.
Yes.
how difficult it is, because it was difficult for us as well.
Yeah.
Children don't come with manuals or anything.
Handbook.
No,
Oh yeah,
no
the magic handbook. I've
Yeah.
always wanted one.
Oh, by the way, and what
and
works for one does
not
not necessarily
for
work
the
for
other.
another. But I mean, these are all growing pains and that of parenting.
All the time, every generation.
Right.
Because no generation before us had that handbook either.
No,
all of them were doing it too by what was taught to them prior.
Right, exactly. And we're all products of our environment, people.
I've always told my kids, and I'm a firm believer, that if you want to change something, you have to change it. Like if you really didn't like something I did as a parent, I need you to change that.
Right.
I can't change that for you because I did it wrong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, so you need to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, we all make mistakes.
Right. And that's what I mean. Yeah. Every parent, including
every parent makes mistakes.
Every parent out there. And if you think you're the perfect parent, or you think you've got it all under control, you best get out there and make your millions.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people waiting for that information.
That's right. I'm just, it's difficult because we get asked questions.
There's another thing, daycares.
Oh God, yes.
And that, like the stuff they have to go through looking for child care nowadays.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking just the money. I'm talking about looking for the safety part of it. Yeah. Do you feel comfortable leaving your child with somebody you don't really know? I don't know if I could have just been, I was very lucky. I was amongst that generation that my parents at one point weren't working. So my husband's parents weren't working at one point. So that meant that his mother could babysit, and I trusted her.
Well, and do
you see where I'm going with that?
I do, but daycare is only, again, another issue that we really didn't have to deal with.
No.
Right? There was family members that we really did
there.
Yeah. And I mean, I used daycare once with my youngest, but I don't know. I just don't think the whole issue, I don't know. It's just not the same. It's not the same world.
No.
I can't explain it. It's one of those, we can't compare apples to oranges, right? And we're not talking about apples to apples anymore.
No.
Right. So
we're talking apples, oranges, bananas,
pears, whatever. It just
generations
goes on. All
the
generations. Right. So we can't even compare anymore. So for us to pass judgment is ludicrous.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be passing judgment.
We may be offering assistance, but not passing judgment.
Exactly. And we want to be about solutions. So anybody out there that has some awesome solutions on the new age of parenting.
And if you have any questions, because you're out there and you're running, like, does anybody else have this issue?
Well, and the funny thing is that we were raised in a generation where when you had children, your whole life stopped.
Yes. There's another thing. You were supposed to give your life to that child.
Right. You have to conform your life to that child. So you get up at a certain time, you go to sleep at a certain time.
Hey.
Hi. I see Amanda's on there. You go to bed at a certain time. Everything was scheduled. We had scheduled bedtime, scheduled times to eat. Everything was scheduled.
Yep.
And the thing is, and nowadays, and I noticed, because at first I started complaining about it.
Right.
Because, why is this kid? What is my granddaughter doing up at 11 o'clock at night or 1:30 in the morning or whatever it is?
Yep.
And then I started realizing, I think I complained to you one day and you're like, well, yeah, no, it's the same. And I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
What they've done is they've renegotiated the parenting rules. So instead of
the kids are now starting to fit into your life.
Into your life.
Instead of you making everything about the kids. Everything had to be about the child and the child only.
Well, hence maybe why we were labeled as creating, an entitled generation.
Maybe.
Which is not true.
No, we didn't.
But, I mean, the thing is...
Definitely not.
No. I have 2 children. They're both in different generations. Go figure.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just one of those.
I just think that, okay, when it comes down to parenting, in my opinion, we're all trying.
Yeah.
Everybody's like trying their best. And that is what we need to do, is try your best. That's what makes you a good parent.
Right.
Because when you stop trying, or when you give up, or when you decide not to continue learning about the job of parenting, because it's a job, let's face it. And the one thing people don't understand is it truly, truly is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You still, even at my age, I still catch myself trying to parent my children again. I have to be like,
our kids went with us. That's the difference. Our kids went everywhere we went.
Yes.
I mean, on occasion,
if I wanted to go to
if it was
house,
a Christmas party and we were going to be drinking, and it was one of those things, we might get a babysitter.
Yeah.
I was also fortunate. My children were 7 years apart, so the oldest, after 14, could manage, or looking after her, the younger one. But I mean, it was very rare. If we went to your place, we took our kids. If we went to our friend's place, we took our kids. If we were playing cards, whatever, we took our kids. It's just one of those things. We took our kids everywhere. Yeah.
They really did become part of your life.
Right. And I think there wasn't like time off. It's not like I got to take my kids and get rid of them for a week, right?
No.
We didn't, that didn't happen.
No.
But I said, we're not comparing apples to apples here. We could go on and on
It's
about the
completely
differences.
different. Like, I've been asked before, and I have on my own child, I've been asked about whether or not they felt like I thought they were doing a good enough job. And I'm like, good enough job? Like, you're doing perfect to me, because I've never parented when you've had to parent. You're making decisions I never had to make.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the things I said earlier is I loved the fact that I didn't have to worry about a stranger looking after my children, because, well, their nanny did for a few years.
Right.
And before that, it was grandma. And before that, it was probably one of my best friends.
My sister-in-law looked after my kids, and it was a different time. And we grew up in a different generation.
Right.
So trying to get all judgy on the younger generation
sucks.
Honestly, because this is why I brought it up, is because I have been guilty of it myself.
Yes.
Being judgy on how children are being raised these days, because, it doesn't conform to how I was raised. And the problem is, the world that existed when I was raised doesn't exist anymore. So with that being said, you're in a whole new territory.
Yep.
I mean, basically that's it.
Yep.
You have the open conversations, you talk about it, and parents, you try to do the best you can. And, so I just want to bring up another fact while I'm on here about children. Children are still the most exploited human beings on this earth. Now, granted, I will give you that a lot of third world countries suffer this more.
Yes.
But I mean, there is human trafficking, and they human traffic children.
Yes.
So I'm just saying,
yeah.
That's something for maybe another new generation, or the
new generation,
or the quote unquote the entitled generation, being the millennials. That's what they say, and
we know it's not true.
We know it's not true.
We do.
We do.
We did
you
our research.
You are the most demanding now.
Yes,
you have been labeled as the most demanding generation.
But that's because I think they're demanding more.
They're demanding more,
and when you demand more, you
change.
don't realize you're also demanding more out of yourself.
Absolutely.
Because it's your generation you're demanding it out of.
Well, everything's changed.
Yeah.
It's changed in the 50 some odd years that I've been on this earth.
Yeah.
And it's changed from the beginning of the baby boomers in 1945. It's like.
Yeah. No, I agree.
There you go. 75 years. Like, come on.
Yep.
75 years, this looks nothing like. And we were just talking about that, about, okay, Google, here's the thing.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the fact that, oh, you couldn't remember the name of that song.
Yeah.
Just a second, I know who might know it. You get on the phone, on the
And
wall,
you check on
and
Google.
you call, oh, hey, Phil, who sings this song? You remember this song? Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Thanks. Or you had to wait till you heard it on the radio and it was announced. But here's the thing.
You don't have to do that anymore.
We've been saying to each other, what did we do before Google? I'm not sure. Because now, what did you say? There's no reason not to
have knowledge.
Yes.
Not to be able to gain and to say, I don't know. There's no reason for a person to say, I don't know. Because now you can just go, look, that like knowledge and information is right there.
Right. But now
we used to have to seek it out.
We had encyclopedias.
Yes.
The Britannica, remember?
I still have some back here.
Yeah, you do.
I do. They're down here. The Columbia Encyclopedia. Remember that one? So we had encyclopedias to check knowledge.
Right.
And to get information.
Yeah.
And giant dictionaries.
Mm-hmm. And a library.
And a library. And
microfilm.
Yeah. So it all depended on how much you wanted to know about something.
Exactly.
So
how hard you were willing
to get the information.
See, the thing is, and I can be an information junkie just like the next person. I'll be watching something or see something. I got my phone out and I'm Googling and I'm Wikipedia and the thing is that knowledge is a great thing. I'm not saying it isn't. I think there's a lot of positives to the internet. Absolutely. We wouldn't be able to do this without it. But the reality is like everything in this world, there's a yin and yang. There's a positive and a negative.
I think that's the scariest thing about parenting now.
Yes.
Is what is out there, how it's out there, when your children become exposed to it, how they become exposed to it, whether it's going to do them future harm.
What about that stupid thing that was on the computer, getting kids to play to the point a game until they killed themselves?
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah. You just made me Google go off. Awesome. But I get it. Like we've done it ourselves. And
guilty as charged.
Yeah.
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 And the thing is that's why I wanted to have this conversation. I wanted to talk about it because especially the older generation, I hate saying that, but anyways.
What older generation?
Yeah. Especially the older generation, we tend to be very judgy.
Yeah.
Like very judgy. We tend to, because
believe that you should be doing things the way we did them.
Right. And putting our expectations on you.
Right. And we're trying.
That's an urban legend. It's not. Actually, there were some charges pending on that. Not an urban legend. Actually, it actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was some sort of weird appy thing that the kids had to join.
Oh,
anyways, but it actually happened. It did. Yes, it might have started off as an urban legend, but somebody
tried to make it real.
Yes.
Yeah. That seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we look, it's not just that. It's mass murders.
Yeah.
Hello. When did that become a thing? Like
ever since, it's like people say that all the time though, Valerie. That's a judgy statement right there, because they say things like, oh, crime wasn't that bad. We're the ones who had mobsters. Okay. We had mobsters.
It was a different
and there were drugs and there was all sorts of weird shit.
No, I'm just saying that. Okay, not everybody.
There was violence. There was a lot of this stuff when we were young, but we weren't as subjected to it.
Do you know why? Because we didn't have this.
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet. We didn't have news and information 24/7, 7 days a week, whenever you want.
Right there.
And right there at your fingertips. Why I love TikTok so much. It's, anywhere from 15 to 60-second blast and you're
It's
in and out.
definitely good for the ADD. Not.
Yeah, just saying. But it's one of those things. And I think with information, with the internet, with everything changing, the availability, and I guess, yeah, would mass murderers happen when we were kids? If we had all of this, probably.
Yeah.
If some pissed off kid in high school
Well, I think of the people, there were a lot of
that
really,
had access to AK-47s and that, yeah,
maybe.
I could think of a couple.
I hate to say it.
I hate to say it because the thing
there were lots of killers back then. They were
right.
just serial killers. Not that makes it
any better. What did I say before? There's a yin and yang, a positive and a negative. I prefer to stay up on the positive end of things.
Okay.
I just don't think we have a right to judge how a younger generation is doing parenting. Okay. My only concerns, and I think one of the biggest concerns I have with parenting today is children not having consequences for their actions.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest mistake that parents are making today, and I could go on, and the reason it's not, and I get it, it's not just parents, it's schools, it's our education system, it's even minors.
You call it actions, I say it's low expectations.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there, but here's the point. How do you know how to succeed if you've never, how do you truly know how to succeed at something if you've never failed, right? If you've never ever failed. Okay. How do you know you're truly succeeding at something?
How do you know when you're good at it?
That's my point.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's not just that, it's the whole, I get about, as I said earlier, I totally get about the protection of children. They are like I said, they are the most vulnerable sector in the whole world of human beings. They're the most exploited human beings in the world. And I truly am about protection. But the reality as a job as a parent is to teach our children how to survive on their own and become productive members of society.
Right.
And when children don't have consequences for their actions, you are not teaching them how to survive.
No.
So when a child becomes a teenager.
Yeah, if you don't let them feed themselves, they're hungry.
Right. So when a child becomes a teenager, everything becomes so very overwhelming for them because they start to have interrelational problems with their peers. You know what I mean? They have their own hormones are ranging, all of that. And when they start to face problems, they start to have mental health issues because they have never learned how to fall down, pick themselves up, and dust themselves off.
Well, and I think as they learn that, though, as they learn it, it is a problem-solving thing, but they learn it, and they always end up learning it, whether it be the easy way or the hard way. I always say that. We all do.
We all
learn it, whether it's the easy way or whether it's the hard way.
And a lot of us, it's the hard way.
I think I've always been better at the hard way. I don't know why.
But the thing is, but not even allow them to learn the hard way is the issue.
Yes.
Right?
Preventing the fall.
You're preventing the
it's
fall.
Like constantly putting a cushion down, that doesn't help them.
Right. So when we went to school, if I came home and told my parents that my teacher said something or did something or whatever I didn't like, or I was in trouble or something, and I knew
you were going to get in trouble too.
I was more afraid when I got home than I was of any teacher, and they had the strap in school when we were kids, up until I think about around junior high for me.
Yeah, I didn't want to ever go home and tell our parents that
that we, you know, ever.
No.
But the thing is, because we were more afraid of what was going to happen when we got home. Well,
funny though, I did get in a lot of trouble at school, Valerie.
Yeah, you did.
So I should have been the one who should have been afraid, but I wasn't. Like I still, I don't know.
But you got in trouble. You weren't mean to people. Like
No.
you weren't picking on people or
I didn't
anything
do
like
that,
that.
stuff like that.
You weren't bullying or anything.
No.
You like to talk a lot. And
Yeah.
That's not changed. But anyway.
Right.
Right.
And but all I know is, like we were saying, parenting. Let's go back to generational parenting, because certain things are just plain different. Yes. And because they're different, I'm never going to be able to judge that. However, there are things that I am able to speak of, and that's my own experiences.
That's true.
So if you ask me a particular question and I'm able to answer that question, like I'm willing to give you that information as a grandparent, but also as an older person.
Yeah.
I would like for you to listen to what I'm actually saying. Like, I don't want, why I hate it when people just ask for the advice and then really do nothing with it.
Yeah, they ask or then get mad at you
because you gave your advice. They didn't like what you had to say. Well, so I always say, like, if you're in the position that you're actually asking someone, whether it's a parent, whether it's a friend, relative, whoever, grandparent, you're asking them for some advice about how to handle something or how they would have handled it or something, you got to be willing to hear it.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be willing to open up your ears and hear what they have to say. Or the best bet is to avoid the conversation altogether and don't ask.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I do. I know what you mean.
Okay.
I think it's just the whole topic altogether is a hot topic for the simple fact we tend to pass a lot of judgment. We never really talk about how we're not comparing apples to apples and that the world we grew up in doesn't exist anymore. And I guess that's the bottom line.
No, it doesn't.
No. Right. All right. We have to get going because we are going to be live at 7 o'clock.
I want to thank everyone again once more, for all your love again.